Hi everyone, I'm Amna Batool and I'm excited to present our research on expanding the concepts of non-consensual image disclosure abuse along with my co-authors Kentaro Toyama and Mustafa Naseem. Before proceeding, please note that our findings involve sensitive topics including violence against women, domestic abuse, suicide, and tragic deaths. So what is non-consensual image disclosure abuse? It refers to a form of technology-facilitated sexual abuse that involves the threat and disclosure of culturally sensitive images and videos with romantic or sexual connotations to harm, control, or extort victims. While in Western context, NCIDA is often associated with intimate imagery, in regions like Pakistan, even seemingly innocent photos such as individuals holding hands or sitting together can lead to significant repercussions reflecting the cultural significance of honor and reputation in these regions. For instance, in Pakistan, a girl was murdered by her male family members because of an edited video showing her sitting next to a boy, even though they both were fully clothed. This occurred because such images and videos can seriously damage the reputation of entire families in their communities. So, our work is motivated by the imbalance we saw in prior studies on NCIDA. After reviewing over 50 papers, we notice a strong emphasis on Western context, neglecting regions like South Asia, including Pakistan. This Western-centric approach fails to capture the diverse experiences of NCIDA in different cultural settings, a gap we aim to address in our study. We notice that the majority of previous research focuses mainly on sexually explicit content and threats of public disclosure, primarily targeting victims. The existing literature highlights different consequences such as emotional distress, physical harm, reputational damage, and social ramification, all experienced solely by the victims. Additionally, previous studies show a preference of punitive actions like content removal, banning, public shaming, and criminal prosecution. However, there has been a recent shift towards restorative approaches, which include apologies, voting and reward systems, legal protections, and monetary compensations. Therefore, to counterbalance the Western-centric focus, our research aims to expand the comprehension of NCIDA beyond Western context. Specifically, we focus on uncovering its nuances in Pakistan by investigating its manifestations, its impact on victims and families, and the preferred remedies by victims to address such abuse. And to answer our research questions, we conducted our study in a major urban city in Pakistan where we collaborated with the cybercrime wing of a federal investigation agency and an NGO dedicated to women's digital rights in Pakistan. Our methodology involved conducting semi-structured interviews with 12 investigation officers, 12 victims, and 8 family members from both organizations. We also observed interactions during investigation of 70 NCIDA cases at the cybercrime wing for a total of 240 hours. Our findings focus on highlighting the difference between Western-centric conception of NCIDA and its manifestation in the Pakistani context. For that, we dive into 3 key aspects: the conception of NCIDA, the consequences it entails, and the pursuit of justice against NCIDA. Through this analysis, we aim to highlight that the Western conceptions of NCIDA are considerably narrow in scope and that there is a pressing need for comprehensive exploration of NCIDA within diverse cultural contexts to understand it completely. Our findings reveal a nuanced picture of NCIDA in Pakistan, where the threshold of what constitutes harmful content is significantly lower compared to Western context. Firstly, we found that actions that are viewed as ordinary in Western society, such as sitting together or holding hands, were considered sensitive by victims and their family members. 20% of our cases involve the misrepresentation of everyday images to imply sexual relationships as shown in image 1. Additionally, in 34% of cases, perpetrators manipulated innocent images to appear sensitive by employing minor digital alterations. In these cases, victims' images were often manipulated by creating collages that combined the victim's image with the male image, accompanied by sexting emojis and derogatory captions, as you can see in image 2. As reported by the investigation officer, such content is seen malicious in our society, primarily due to deeply ingrained patriarchal and honor-driven values, along with limited technology and overall literacy. This is especially prevalent among elderly family members who often lack exposure to digital content and manipulation techniques. This easy generation of NCIDA content has expanded the pool of potential perpetrators beyond romantic partners. Our research uncovered instances where acquaintances like relatives, family members, colleagues, or friends holding even minor grudges rely on easy created NCIDA content to harm victims. Example of such grudges includes they reveal pictures of our sisters, so we are exposing their sisters' photos, or they refuse our son marriage proposal, so we'll ruin their reputation. The intent behind this abuse remains consistent as found previously, including motives such as revenge, coercive control, and financial extortion. However, in contrast to previous studies where perpetrators often threaten to share victims' content online, our research reveals a more invasive mechanism. We found that perpetrators first obtained victims' families' contact information using non-authoritative means and then threatened the victims to share the content with their families if they do not comply to their demands. When victims can no longer comply due to emotional and financial exhaustion, perpetrators disclose the content to female family members like mothers or sisters and threaten them to expose sensitive details of victims to their male family members. Investigation officers noticed that this strategy assumes female family members are more vulnerable to coercion because of societal norms on honor, which lead them to comply to protect the family's reputation and prevent disclosure to male family members. After exploiting victims and female family members, perpetrators escalate their coercion by disclosing the content to male family members. This is often accompanied by threats to publicly distribute the content or share it extensively within the family's social circle to intensify the humiliation. Regarding consequences, we found that in Pakistan they differ in two main ways: the number of people affected and the intensity experienced by the primary victims. As shown in the previous slide, perpetrators often involve the entire family in their threat, causing widespread reputational harms. This broader impact not only affects the shared reputation, but also often affect families' financial stability. For example, we observed a case in which a victim who was the sole breadwinner had to frequently change jobs due to her sensitive content being circulated at her workplaces, placing a significant financial pressure on her family. Furthermore, in Pakistan, the repercussions for the primary victims are significantly intensified. Our research indicates that in 50% of cases, the revelation of such content leads to physical violence against the victim by family members as a reaction to the perceived damage to their family's honor. This violence ranges from physical abuse and confinement to forced marriages, and in most severe instances, it can escalate to fatal outcomes. We also found that such repercussions are partially linked to the limited and conditional support victims get from their families, which is influenced by factors such as the nature of the content, the secrecy of the relationship between victims and perpetrators, and victims' age and maturity level. When it comes to seeking justice, our victims preferred a combination of punitive and restorative measures. We found that initially victims leaned towards punitive actions followed by restorative solutions. Additionally, we noticed that the type of remedy victims demanded within each category often depended on the stage of disclosure. For example, in cases where perpetrators only made threats without any disclosure, victims often asked the cybercrime wing for the content to be deleted from all devices. Additionally, they wanted a private apology from the perpetrator and a written assurance that there would be no future disclosure. On the other hand, if the content had already been publicly shared, victims and their families wanted a public apology on the same platforms where the content was shared. They also requested clarification regarding the perpetrator's malicious intentions on that platform. So overall, we found that the concept and consequences of NCIDA differ greatly between Pakistan and the West. Western notions of NCIDA are overly narrow and predominantly focus on sexually explicit content with romantic partners as the primary perpetrators and a strong emphasis on the individuality of the victims when discussing impact. In contrast, Pakistan presents a much broader spectrum of content that can be classified as NCIDA, involving a wide range of perpetrators. Additionally, the consequences of NCIDA in Pakistan are far more severe both in terms of magnitude and intensity compared to what reported previously. Therefore, with these stark and vast differences, we believe it's imperative to study NCIDA beyond Western context and different cultural settings to fully grasp its scope and impact. This contextual understanding is essential for stakeholders, including tech companies and policymakers, to effectively address these forms of abuse. Based on our research findings and comparative analysis, we have developed a preliminary theory that dives into how NCIDA operates within the framework of local culture norms. Our research indicates that NCIDA operates on the basis of shared perception of what constitutes acceptable or unacceptable behavior in these domains. Both victims and perpetrators adhere to similar standards regarding what is deemed inappropriate for public consumption, contributing to the effectiveness of NCIDA tactics. Additionally, our theory proposed a direct correlation between the strength of cultural norms and the extent of NCIDA's impact. In societies such as Pakistan, where patriarchal and communal values are dominant, NCIDA affects a broader segment of the population and carries more severe consequences. Finally, our theory provides predictive insights into the extent and intensity of NCIDA, taking cultural factors into account. We anticipate that cultures more accepting of nudity will encounter a narrower range of NCIDA content compared to those where nudity is strictly private. Additionally, we expect that the repercussions of disclosure in more open cultures will be less severe on average. If our theory holds true, it will provide valuable insights for social media companies seeking to combat NCIDA. For example, they could develop classification of countries based on prevailing norms, enabling them to anticipate NCIDA to some extent. However, the country-specific exploration will still be required. In conclusion, we suggest promoting public digital literacy. We also suggest tech companies to establish local support systems while owning the responsibility of these crimes. Finally, we advocate for fostering collaborations between platforms and law enforcement agencies. Due to time constraints, we won't dive into the specifics of our recommendations here, but we encourage our audience to read our paper for more details. With this, we come to an end of our presentation. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.